All righty. I guess I didn't even do this yesterday, William, but I'll introduce myself. I guess that would probably be the right thing to do there from the beginning. But guys, hi, how's it going? My name is Justin Murphy. I've known you now for a really long time. We started kind of back in the 24-hour fitness personal training days. So that's when we first got
Wow.
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been some time.
Yeah.
So since then, I went to school, got my degree in nutrition, and I own a online nutrition coaching company called iCoach Nutrition. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll go ahead and start answering y'all's questions.
All right. We have a question from Kurt that came in. Kurt's a triathlete coached by Coach Gina. Uh, and he says, I know I need to take responsibility for my nutrition, but I don't have a master's degree in it. So I just want a sample race week menu plan. And I don't want like the daily grams, like 200 grams of carbs, 300 grams of protein, and 250 grams of fat. That means absolutely nothing to me. It's all I can do just to run, swim, and pedal, and just get ready to race. So my question is this: is there a weekly menu plan for training for triathlon events?
Yeah, so great question. I'm sure there probably is a meal plan out there that you can find if you just do a quick Google search and type in, 7-day meal plan for an endurance athlete. The problem with this is that it's not going to be individualized to you and your needs, your lifestyle. And so that's why I really recommend, working one-on-one with a coach to figure that out. But just to give you some general guidelines there, how old is he? What's his height and weight, and how much is he training?
Oh, Kurt, I don't want to offend him, but he's probably close to 45 to 50-ish.
Okay.
Pretty tall, 6'2" ish, and weighs around 180 to 200 pounds.
Okay. So, and how much is he training, you said?
About 6 to 10 hours a week.
6 to 10 hours a week. Okay. So,
Yeah.
very general guidelines here would be this. I would say, in every single one of your major meals. So let's just say that you're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I would make sure that you're consuming, okay, and you might have to maybe weigh something on a food scale to figure this out at least one time, just so you got a ballpark and you know what it looks like. But you should be consuming anywhere from 6 to 8 ounces of protein at each major meal. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you look on your plate, you make sure you got about 6 to 8 ounces of protein on there. Okay. And this is for you, as a male training as much as you are. Then what I would also do is, there's going to be a big need for carbohydrates as well. And so I would source the majority of your carbohydrates from vegetables and fruits. But for y'all as endurance athletes, I would definitely make sure that you're incorporating starches, things such as, rices and potatoes and tortillas and breads and whatever you need to help you get extra carbohydrates in. Because for some of you that are needing, a lot of carbohydrates in order to fuel your training and help you recover, you're not going to be able to get that just through vegetables or fruits or through doing something like the ketogenic diet where you're eating mainly fats, right? So that would be just kind of some general guidelines there. And then for the healthy fats, obviously, you're going to get that in your animal meats, and you're going to get that in your fishes. But also you're going to be cooking with olive oils, like an extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil. You're probably going to be adding in some avocados into your meals as well. So to answer your question, you could get a meal plan. I'm sure you can find one for free. Just Google it. You'll probably do it for a week, maybe you won't. And then you'll probably get sick of eating the same thing every single day or the same thing every single week. So that's where that variability is going to be. But general guidelines there, make sure that you're hitting your protein goal at every single meal. Just think of what every meal looks like. Think about breakfast, think about lunch, think about dinner. Make sure that you're fill up half your plate with vegetables and fruits. Then put on, fill up a quarter of your plate with whatever that starch is. Let's say it's rice, just to be general. And then put on 6 to 8 ounces of protein, meat or fish. Okay, do that at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then add anything else that you need into the mix. I think that's a pretty easy general guideline. But again, you're going to at some point need to check in with your food quantity. You're going to need to weigh the food on a food scale, measure it, log it into MyFitnessPal at least for 7 days so that you know what your intake actually is. Because if you don't know that, you're not going to know whether you're eating enough or too little or too much. And it's just going to be a guessing game. So
that's a good question. He mentioned he doesn't like to do the math before his meals, but it's important to at least get a good guideline on that starting out, and then you can kind of get a good feel for it. So there's a term in the endurance world with nutrition called nutrition periodization. I'm sure you're probably familiar with it. And we mentioned starting with protein first. If the training, and we're for triathletes right now, we're in the very specific period coming to the end of the year. And if depending on his training volume, if it's like a recovery week and it's lower, then he can include more high protein in his diet, such as 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of his body weight. And if it's a little higher, the carbs go up and the protein comes down just slightly. So for carbohydrates for endurance athletes, we're looking at 5 to 8 grams when we're in low volume. And we're doing relatively low volume during a specific period. And high volume, we're looking at 7 to 12 grams per kilogram of body weight for endurance athletes. This is during the main season. It's a little bit lower.
So if I was Kurt right now and I was listening to that, that would be what's called doing a math problem there, right?
Yeah.
I think a much easier way to think about this is to say, like, we don't do anything in kilograms here, right? We don't use the metric system. So why do it with nutrition? So I would just simply say, for everybody that's doing the training that y'all are doing, if you shoot for 0.8 to 1.0 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So for me, for example, I do strength training 5-6 days a week. I weigh 185 pounds. I eat 185 grams of protein per day on average. I would argue that most of y'all are under eating your protein intake. So again, you would need to check in and see, how many grams of protein am I eating per day on average for 7 days? And if you're extremely low, just slowly start working yourself back up. Don't try to add a whole bunch of protein in immediately. You're going to start having digestive issues and all of that. So yeah, that would kind of be my takeaway on that. And then in terms of the carbohydrates, like, you could sit there and do a calculation there, but I think an easier way to look at that is to maybe say, hey, how many meals per day am I eating? And let me learn how to actually build my breakfast, my lunch, my dinner. Like, what should my plate actually look like? And then if you can just start replicating that, we can start making this a lot easier. Now, for those of you that want to weigh your food, log your food, measure your food, you're going to get way better results. You're going to feel way better faster. Your performance is going to be everything's going to be better. So it's worth the investment in the beginning to do that. Now, I'm not telling you to go and do this for the rest of your life. I'm just saying we have to build awareness, because if you don't build awareness, you're going to be clueless. You're not going to know where your numbers are at. And therefore, you don't know if you're under eating or overeating or eating enough. Like, you have no idea. So
I'm assuming most of these questions I have for you are coming from under eating, from what I gather.
A lot of people are, it just depends, right? A lot of people that are in the very active space, whether it's endurance athletes or CrossFit athletes or whatever it may be, a lot of them are, they're putting in a lot of training volume, and it's hard to eat enough just through whole foods, right? And so they have to supplement and things like that. One thing I would say, I want to touch on here, going back to that calculation for protein intake, if you are somebody that is wanting to lose weight, let's say, for example, like you're 300 pounds and you want to be 150 pounds. Well, you don't want to do 0.8 to 1.0 times 300. You would actually want to do 0.8 to 1.0 times 150, right? Go off that goal weight rather than where you're currently at, because I would never want somebody that weighs 300 pounds eating 300 grams of protein.
Gotcha. All right. You ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
I got a marathon question here from Julia. She knows I have nutrition questions, but it is more focused to my marathon training. And why do I bonk late in the race? I think it may be depleted energy stores and my body's inability to burn fat because of my diet. I eat pretty healthy, protein, veggies for dinner, and a grapefruit for dessert. Lunch is usually about the same always. Usually like a sandwich with a meat and cheese pickle. Breakfast is always cereal. I do snack throughout the day, either on raw almonds or goldfish crackers. She even admits that she's a horrible cook for the family. She doesn't have a lot of time to spend cooking. What meal plans make sense for me when marathon training so I don't bonk late in the race?
Yeah, so y'all are starting to see here, it's a commonality, right? Everybody thinks that everybody's looking for a meal plan. It's the most common question that I get. Again, so if you want to Google and find one of these meal plans for free, I mean, they're all out there. You can get them all for free. But I'm telling you that here in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, y'all are probably going to be like, yeah, he was right. You know, it's just probably not going to work for me. So she's talking about two different things here, right? So if we go back to the very beginning of that, I want to kind of break it down and make sure that people understand here. So one, the first thing is she said was that when she's running or training or whatever she's doing here, she's feeling like she's dying out, right? She feels like she's running out of energy, you know, emptying the tank. So that right there tells me that she's not fueling her workouts correctly. And she's probably, based off of the food log that she showed us, under eating, right?
Yeah.
Like without me even looking at anything else, like we probably know that. Now, here's where it gets confusing and conflicting. She also said, how do I lose body fat? Well, if you think about it, based off that diet and what she's doing, and she's under eating, so she's in a calorie deficit. If she was truly in a calorie deficit, she would be losing body fat, because we know that the only way, like science shows, like the only way that you can lose body fat is by eating in a calorie deficit. Like there's no other way. And again, this is why it's so important to know, well, am I actually eating in a calorie deficit? And if you're not logging your food, you have no idea. And if you're not logging your food correctly, right, you still have no idea. So there's two different equations there. She's got to decide, hey, if I want to lose body fat, okay, then that's going to require me to be in a calorie deficit. If I'm in a calorie deficit, I'm going to have some issues with my performance and recovery, right? Because being in a calorie deficit is not indicative or would never be advised for somebody that's trying to improve their performance and recovery, right? If you came to me and you said, hey, I got this thing I'm training for, I want to make sure my performance and recovery are on point. If I brought you into a calorie deficit, what would happen to you?
I would start bunking.
Huh?
I would start fading out.
Yeah, you'd start. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to race. Come race day, you'd feel like crap.
No.
Right?
No. One rule of thumb is you can't really do a lot of training or both at the same time. You can't perform and try to lose weight at the same time.
That's it. That's exactly what I'm getting right there, right? So it's like this triangle of awareness, right? And understanding that on one side I have optimal performance, on the other side I have optimal aesthetics, right? Losing body fat, losing weight, whatever. So you got to address one at a time. And going back to what you said earlier there, right? You said nutritional periodization, right? Yeah. And this is a great example, a great segue into what that is, which is, let's decide which one of those things you want to prioritize first. Let's focus on that thing first, and then we'll transition into the next thing, right? And so it's periodizing, just like what y'all do with y'all's training. If you sat here and just killed yourself all year round in your training, you would get hurt, you'd get injured, right? You wouldn't be able to sustain this. So it's the same thing with nutrition. You can't always be trying to diet and lose weight, just like you can't always be eating in an excess of calories. You're going to gain a whole bunch of weight, right?
Right.
So to answer her question there, if you want to lose body fat, if that's what you want to do first, then understand you need to be tracking your food intake. You can use MyFitnessPal, or you can use another app that's new, that's actually a lot better. It's called Chronometer. And you need to consistently eat in a calorie deficit. If you're eating in a calorie deficit, you will lose body fat. If you're not losing body fat, then you're probably not logging your food correctly. And then we need to address that, which most of the time is most people just aren't weighing their food on a food scale. They're not measuring their food. And so they're putting in inaccurate inputs into the logging app. So, and then on the performance recovery side, again, I would check into, hey, when we prioritize that, you need to be eating at least maintenance level calories, right? We need to be making sure that you're getting enough sleep. We need to make sure that you're staying hydrated, and we need to make sure that we're fueling all the training that we're doing properly. So it sounds like to me you're kind of eating like a rabbit over there, and we gotta increase the intake a little bit there if we want to start training and being able to last through the the workouts. Because how much volume is she doing?
She's not doing very much at all right now. She's just starting back, so it's going to be a long road back. But she wants to know how to prevent bonking, and this will help in the future for race day and future races. She probably also needs to eat more race morning before a race. Wake up extra early, 3 or 4 hours before your race, and consume a good high carbohydrate breakfast leading up to a marathon. Because we know the body's ability has only about 90 to 2 hours worth of carbohydrates to use during that time frame when you're exercising at a certain intensity zone.
Yeah, and if you have the ability to get up early and do that, I mean, absolutely. But maybe even more importantly, or just as important, what did you do the day before, right? Make sure you don't undereat the day before, right? Make sure you don't go low carb the day before, right? So yeah, really in that, if you think about glycogen resynthesis, right? So muscle glycogen, which is what we're using here to fuel these races, this replenishes on a 24 to 36 hour cycle. So if you think, when's race day, or when's the end of my race going to finish at, and then let's trace it back 24 hours, 24 to 36 hours, and that carbohydrate load, that's what's fueling your glycogen. That's what's filling up your muscles so that you can go and race. So 100%, if you have the ability to eat breakfast that morning. I know for a lot of y'all, the races are starting really early in the morning. So I like to actually, what time are most of these races starting? Actually, maybe I'm
marathons probably around 7 in the morning, 7, 8 at the latest.
Okay. So, you could do this. You could treat dinner the night before as quote unquote your pre-workout meal, and make sure you really have a big dinner. Like basically make sure that you go into a surplus of calories that day. And that actually could essentially fuel, some of it. But if you have the ability to, like I said, wake up and go to bed earlier that night, which you're probably going to want to get into a routine of that earlier on rather than just the night before, right? But if you can wake up early, have a breakfast like what you said, I mean, that would be amazing. I just know for a lot of people, and maybe depending upon how serious they are, maybe they would want to not have to wake up 3-4 hours, at 3 in the morning or whatever. So I don't know, I guess depends what works best for you, but either way, we just need to make sure that 24 to 36 hour window before that race that you have met your carbohydrate and overall calorie requirements.
Yeah, back in the day when I was doing triathlons, we would have like a 4 or 5 hour training day. The night before, I would eat like a huge 16-ounce pizza the night before, and still wake up early and eat a good breakfast, and I would perform really well.
Yeah, well, and I mean, look, I think that, it goes back to like, look, everybody's completely different. What works for you works for you. But I mean, at the end of the day, the worst thing that you can do for performance and recovery is under fuel, right? Like that's the worst thing that you can do. So y'all got to make sure that you're getting in enough intake so that you can fuel this race and be able to recover from it as well. So intra and post-workout nutrition is extremely important. Extremely.
Exactly. And during her marathon, she should also make sure she's trying to drink about 6 to 8 ounces every 15, 20 minutes.
Drinking half of your body weight in fluid ounces of water is like the bare minimum for like general population. So for what y'all are doing, we better up that. Yeah, for sure.
4 hours when you're racing, and definitely daily nutrition or hydration for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm sure y'all use electrolytes and different things like that as well. So yeah, that stuff's extremely important. I mean, look, sleep, hydration, nutrition, your training, like all of these things go hand in hand and they all affect each other, right? Everything affects everything, as I like to say.
And during the summertime, we lose about 1 gram an hour of electrolytes or salt. So we need to make sure we're taking an electrolyte replacement, such as like a Noon tablet is one example.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
All right, Julia, you need to start eating more. It's going to be a process.
One step at a time, one day at a time. Yeah, and again, with all of this, guys, y'all have to realize that you can't overwhelm yourself. You can't expect to go, overnight and completely transform all of this stuff. So again, what I try to do when I work with people one-on-one is it's like, look, we're going to go through the assessment and I can probably identify 50 to 100 things that we need to work on and improve. But I just want to start with one thing. Like, what's your lowest hanging fruit? right? What's
Yep.
the worst thing? Let's fix that first, and then we'll fix the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's how I would approach it, in my own life as well.
Exactly. That's what we do. That's what I do. Anyways, when I'm looking at someone swim or run, I'm going to go for the low hanging fruit first. Something that we can correct.
Coach, hey, it's coaching, right? Coaching is coaching. That's right.
One-on-one. Low hanging fruit first.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Also, don't tell your clients too much information at once. It gets a little overwhelming.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why, I mean, even going through these questions right now, guys, I mean, obviously I'm missing out on a lot of context. So if any of y'all want to reach out to me like directly and talk like one-on-one, I mean, please, like, let's do that. And I would love to be able to like individualize this as much as possible to you. I'm trying to make this as like surface level and generalized as possible so everybody can get some value out of it. But anyways, what other questions we got there?
Oh, next we have Kristen. Kristen was actually hit by a Tahoe a few years ago on the bike at 60 miles an hour from behind.
Jesus.
And,
wow.
She lived through that, and she's pretty much made a full recovery. She still has some aches and pains. Anyway, the running has always been her biggest struggle, and lately she's actually lifting 2 feet off the ground these days and taking over podiums and stuff at triathlons. So anyway, she has been following a Whole30 eating plan for a while. But she has trouble finding a protein shake for post-workout. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you listening, I mean, Whole30 is a phenomenal diet. I think that it's very, very highly emphasized in food quality. You just got to make sure you're eating enough again, right?
Right.
In terms of protein shakes and protein powders, essentially what you're looking for is this. When you look at the back of the ingredient list, in my opinion, I would say look for something that has 10 ingredients or less, okay? And then what I would also do is that first ingredient, for y'all, what we're looking for is a whey protein isolate. That's the type of protein, okay? Unless you're vegan or vegetarian, then we can look into something else there. But the point of it is whey protein isolate, okay? If you're looking for a company or suggestion here, I'm a big fan, I'm sure you've heard of them, of Thorne Research. They're the ones that supply all the supplements to all of our U.S. Olympic athletes. And so, just in terms of like every last thing that matters with supplements, it's all regulated. So go check out them. They have a whey protein isolate. I'm a big fan of them. There's several others out there as well, though.
Yeah, I use the Infinite Nutrition. I use Infinite Nutrition primarily. Their raw recovery blend and their blend called Repair for immediate and post workouts. Nice. And also I use forget their other name of it. I think it's called Nocturne. It has a little bit of tryptophan in it. I use that for a little nighttime recovery. It has a little more of a casein blend. But that leads into my next question. Big debate around the area is: do you want to go for whey or casein immediate post workout?
Definitely not casein. Definitely whey, 100%. Yeah, if you look into the research on that, it's I don't know what community is debating it, but yeah, the research is pretty conclusive across the board. Whey protein, casein protein, I actually would tell you to throw away. It's just like BCAAs or EAAs. Yeah, complete waste of money. Whey protein isolate is definitely what you're looking for.
Yeah, for immediate post-workout, like right after. Another way to extend the recovery window. Right now, what's going around is that you take your recovery supplement within 30 minutes of working out. But you can extend that window if you consume a little bit of protein pre-workout, 5 to 20 grams pre-workout. You can extend that window a little bit.
Yeah, so I guess I think this would be a great moment here to maybe take a step back and just knowing like the population and just saying, hey guys, like, yeah, we can really get into these little details, but if you're not doing this big picture stuff, like you really don't need to be caught up in these small little details. I think at the end of the day here, what really, really matters for the majority of y'all is that you're hitting your protein, fat, and carbohydrate numbers for the day, right? You're actually eating enough calories and you're actually consuming enough, because if you're under eating, this pre and post workout supplementation, like it doesn't even matter, right? So we need to get that hit the overall intake numbers by the end of the day. right? As long as that's happening, then we can have the conversation into this. But ultimately, I would say this, I think for most people, eating an actual like whole foods pre-workout meal and post-workout meal would be ideal. Now, obviously you can't eat that super close to your workout or you're going to feel like crap when you go to workout and have digestive issues and all of that. If you're somebody that just can't get enough protein in and that's why they're taking in a protein shake, like I understand that makes sense. And if you're somebody that's training a whole lot, that makes sense too. Of course, you're going to have a whole bunch more supplementation. Just to put it in perspective, I mean, when I was competing in CrossFit at a regional level, like I was supplementing with, I probably took like 10 supplements a day. Now as just like a person that doesn't compete in anything anymore, like I just work out to stay healthy. Like the only thing I use now is a whey protein isolate, a whey protein powder and creatine. Those are the only two things I take. So I would just be, make sure that if you're relying on supplements that you're doing the foundational stuff correctly. Because if you're not doing the foundational stuff, the supplements really aren't doing as much as you think they are.
Yep. I agree. Got a question here. This is not really a question, but kind of want you to explain to our athletes and maybe some other athletes in the area that are listening to this. There's a lot of bad eating habits we're noticing. We have a lot of athletes skipping breakfast, and later they can't complete their workouts like we had planned for them, or they can't hit the intensity efforts that we had recommended for them to do or prescribed for them to do. So can you kind of explain why athletes should eat breakfast, or kind of in the general population why they should instead of not?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it depends on, the athlete individually. I mean, there are some people that work, a lot better with like more of an intermittent fasting approach. But I think what we're seeing with the people that you're talking about is if we're skipping breakfast, then what's probably happening? You're probably under eating, right? Because now you only have lunch and dinner to get your food in. And, as a byproduct, you're not consuming enough calories. Now, I would need to see, okay, well, when are these people training? Are they training at night or at lunchtime, or when does that happen?
We're talking about evening workouts.
So evening workouts. So what's really ultimately happening here is before that workout happens, you haven't filled up those glycogen levels enough. You haven't gotten enough fuel in your body, right, to be able to actually do the training. And so do what?
Just after a long work day, after you've been mentally exhausted.
Well, so we have to decide, is this a psychological thing or is it a under-fueling thing, right? Is there a problem with nutrition, or is it just a mindset, I'm tired, I don't want to go do it, right? Like, what are we talking about? But ultimately what I'm saying is if we're having a night training session and we're skipping breakfast and we're not being able to complete the training and we're feeling, just completely dead and falling out, then clearly you're not fueling yourself properly. You haven't gotten enough fuel, right, in the time period from the time that you woke up to the time that you go train to be able to fuel what you're about to do. So simply make it a priority to eat breakfast. Do that for the next, 21, 30 days, however long you want to do it, and reassess and see how that affects you, right? But you got to if you want to really thrive in these things that we're doing, you got to make priorities. You got to make sacrifices. And so if you're not eating breakfast and you're seeing that affect your training and you think that's the reason why, then simply start eating breakfast. It's not a matter of right or wrong. It's just, if you're coming to me with these symptoms, I'm basically going to tell you that you're under-fueling yourself up until that point. That's the only logical solution. Or maybe you didn't get enough sleep that night before. That could be something, or, there's some variables, but overall, I mean, I would recommend for most of you that are trying to focus on performance, right, and recovery, if that's your number one goal here, then I would really, really focus in on making sure that you're eating enough to fuel this. You're eating at least at maintenance level calories. So again, I think a lot of people in this group, we might need to do a live MyFitnessPal food logging weighing thing. I mean, you should do a challenge in your group here. Hey guys, for the next 7 days, weigh your food, log your food, measure your food, and let's just see on average where everybody's calorie intake is at. So I think that's going to answer a lot of questions for all these problems that we're having. Sounds like a lot of people are overtraining and under eating.
Yep. All right. Last one for you. what's your experience working with the needs of endurance athletes? And if a runner or a triathlete wanted a coaching from you or I Coach Nutrition, how would the onboarding process work with your group? What's your process like once you get them going with you, and how does the coaching process work with I Coach Nutrition?
Yeah, no, great question. So essentially how things would work is I need to find out as much about you as I possibly can, right? And so to do that, we're going to take you through a very, very advanced assessment process. And so what that is you're going to have essentially a questionnaire that has about 50 questions in it, and it's going to trace back and ask a whole bunch of different things. Matter of fact, well, I don't want to bring up a client's questionnaire here. If I had a blank one, I'd show it. But it's about 50 questions or so you'd fill out. And then also what we're going to do is we're going to take 7 days, 7 to 14 days, but typically 7 days to do a food log assessment so that we can assess what your nutrition looks like. You know, on average, how many calories are you eating per day? Out of those calories, what does that macronutrient breakdown look like on average? And then in assistance to that, we're also going to have you do a food picture log. What that does is it allows me to see the quality of the food that you're eating, right? So I can actually see the picture. And I can see when you're eating throughout the day so that I can look into y'all's pre and post workout nutrition. And I'm going to make sure that what you're logging into MyFitnessPal is actually accurate, right? Because again, 99% of the people that come to me do not know how to log their food on MyFitnessPal accurately. Like seriously, it's crazy. And a lot of it's, you know, the app, it's confusing. There's error there, and some of it's an user error. So just bridging that gap and helping people understand that. So once we get that stuff done, what we're going to do is we're going to hop onto our first call, right? And so the way that we do these calls is exactly like this. So we'll do a Zoom video call, so we're face to face, okay? And what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up. I can share my screen with you. I'm going to pull up your client folder. We're going to go through the whole initial questionnaire together. We're going to pull up MyFitnessPal. We're going to go through MyFitnessPal together. I'm going to have your picture log in my phone, right, through our text message thread, so I can see all the pictures. And we're going to go through the assessment process together. We're going to identify those 50 to 100 things, right, that we need to work on. But what I'm going to do from there is, based off your goal, I'm going to formalize all of that into a game plan, okay? And so maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 9, maybe it's a year, depending upon how long it's going to take. But we're going to reverse engineer that process to where we basically just make weekly focus areas, okay? And so when we first start the process, after we've gone through assessment, we set up a 30-minute video consultation, video coaching call like this every single week, okay? And so now we're reviewing through whatever it is that we're working on. All right. And you also have unlimited access to me via text message so that we're continuing to educate you in between those calls. I'm able to answer questions. I'm able to help you when you're going out to eat or traveling or grocery shopping or whatever it may be. And so it's literally what it is having a coach that you get to work with one-on-one that's there with you, not just 1 hour a day for your workout, but 24 hours a day. And is going to make you bridge the gap from where you are right now and where you want to be. Because let's be honest, right? I mean, I have a nutrition coach myself. I have a business coach. It's like, at the end of the day, like we get to a point where if we're going to do it on our own, we would have already done it by now, you know?
Right.
And so that's where that gap is. That's how we bridge the gap. So you know, if anybody's interested in, like, what we do first is we just do a discovery call. It's a free discovery call. We just want to look and make sure that like we would be a good fit for each other. And if you're a good fit for the program, we'll invite you in, and then from there we'll get started on everything. But happy to do a discovery call with anybody that's watching this, or answer any questions that y'all have. You know, however I can help and add value. So
awesome. Sounds pretty similar to what we do with the calls and the unlimited text and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, it's, you know, I think most people out there these days that are doing online or remote type coaching, like they're all doing the same stuff, right? In terms of like the access to the coaching. I think the days of sitting behind a computer and doing email coaching are over. So I think, you know, people really like yeah, me either. I don't like them either. I mean, this is invaluable, right? Typing an email, like, so yeah, I think that people really like the video call. Some people just like doing regular phone consults, but you know, here's the thing. All of this information, everything that I'm going to tell you, everything that he's going to tell you, it's all on the internet for free. It's all out there. Would you agree? Right?
Yep. You can
The
find it.
magic though, guys, the magic is in the application of that information, right? So what we've done here, right, is we've built a model to where we're taking the information, we're individualizing it to you in your life, right? So we're bridging that gap of application, and then also the community piece. That's huge, right? So now we have an extra layer of accountability through community and through that one-on-one coach to client relationship. So that's it.
Awesome. And kind of give me an estimate of what your rates are for this. I had some questions on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically the way we do things is we don't do a year-long commitment or anything like that. It's just on reoccurring monthly billing. And so we start everybody off like what I said with weekly coaching calls. So that's $350 a month. And then from there, we graduate you into bi-weekly coaching calls. So once we feel ready, that means we're going to graduate you to where we're having a coaching call once every 2 weeks. So that'll move the price down to $250 a month. And then from there, we'll graduate you into monthly coaching calls. So now 1 call per month. You still have unlimited access through text messaging through all of that, but now we go down to $150. So the idea of this, what most people do, right, is they'll do 2 months of weekly, they'll do 2 months of biweekly, and they'll do 2 months of monthly. And that investment in themselves, 6 months of working one-on-one with a coach, ultimately is what allows you to get the education and the tools that you need to be successful on your own going forward. And that way you don't have all this confusion and, looking on the internet, trying every last thing under the sun. So.
Awesome. Sounds like it can be pretty affordable.
Yeah, the way that I look at it, it's definitely an investment. It's not a $50 meal plan or whatever. It's an investment, just like anything else, but 100% worth it. I think for y'all, like depending upon what your goals are, whether it's performance or aesthetics or just health, really what we try to do is meet you where you are and help you to get where you need to be. And a lot of that's just through like empathetic problem solving, right? I mean, I've been in the field now for 10 years, when I first got in the field, like I remember when I was in high school, like I used to go to the supplement shop and spend like $300 a month on these random supplements. I used to eat at like Taco Bell and think that's how you bulk up. I mean, I had no idea of any of this stuff. And over the last 10 years, through going to school and working with thousands of people, I've started to understand not only what works best for me, but what works best for all of these different types of people that are coming to us. So I'd be honored to answer any of y'all's questions. So don't hesitate to reach out and let me know.
Same background here. So definitely started with back in high school reading the Runner's World magazines. And then I heard that D1 guys ran all their easy paces at 6:30 pace. Started doing that and ended up getting hurt a lot. So
yeah, I was reading bodybuilding magazines, right? I mean, so it's what you don't know, you don't know. And that's again, like, that's why we hire a coach. I mean, I have a nutrition coach. I have a business coach. Like it's what truly allows you to kind of bridge that gap of where you currently are and where you want to be. So y'all have seen it. I mean, obviously you'll have a great coach here. So just super excited, guys. I mean, I think that even y'all having interest and you bringing, me on and talking about nutrition, like obviously nutrition plays a huge role in everything that y'all are doing. But even outside of that, looking into all those lifestyle factors, the things that are getting neglected, like sleep and hydration and, all of that type of stuff. So it all plays a part, and we got to make sure that we're checking into all of it. If not, if we let one of those buckets fall, then that's when we start having problems.
Absolutely. All right. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope everyone enjoys this. I hope this adds value. And I'll close the recording here and I'll email this over to you. And then everyone can check it out.
Before you go, where can people find you or follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website, you can just go to that. It's iCoachNutrition.com. So our logo, it's like an iPhone, right? So it's a lowercase I and then capital C, iCoach, stands for individualized coaching. And I'm also on Instagram. Like that's probably the social media platform I'm on the most. It's just my name, Justin Ryan Murphy, all one word there. And then you can also find us on Facebook. We have the iCoach Nutrition Family private Facebook group. Those are the main three, and we're on YouTube and LinkedIn and all that too, but just those are the main ones. Our podcast as well, the Identity Project, You can check that out, which is actually transitioning here soon. It'll be called I Coach Nutrition Radio. So, yeah, that's it.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And don't hesitate to reach out, guys. I'll send this over to you now.